Sheffield is known as the birthplace of stainless steel, but are there sports venues equally shiny and rust-proof? Let's check out the stadiums and arenas of Sheffield, England. Where better to start than at Bramall Lane, the home of Sheffield United, who are affectionately known as the Blades. Bramall Lane is one of the oldest football grounds in the world. In fact, it actually started out its life before football was much of a thing. It was a cricket ground that even hosted an Ashes Test match in 1902. The Oval in London is the only other venue that's hosted both the England national cricket and football teams, the men's ones at least. It was also home to the Yorkshire County Cricket Club, but they moved to Leeds in the 1890s, and have remained there ever since, while they did continue to play the odd home game here, the last of which was a first-class match against Lancashire in 1973. It became a football-specific stadium shortly afterwards. Sheffield United have well and truly made it their own since then, as you can see. The club's nickname of Blades is a nod to the city's cutlery industry, and I can totally understand why they've opted to choose swords as their symbol rather than butter knives. Because, violence against butter is still violence. Util Arena, Sheffield. Util seems to own the naming rights to about a third of the major indoor arenas in the UK, so that's why they have to include the name of the city in the title. This is a pretty generic looking exterior compared with the other Util arenas around the country. The interior design is a little more interesting, I suppose. It seems to be optimized for concerts, with one end being left empty. That's where the stage goes. You may be slightly concerned that I haven't mentioned steel yet. Well, you can relax, because this place is home to the Sheffield Steelers, an ice hockey team that plays in the UK's Elite Ice Hockey League. Did you know that Sheffield once produced 40% of Europe's steel? Allon Stadium. I normally don't include greyhound racing venues, but this one is also a speedway. In fact, it was built as a speedway first and foremost. The greyhounds didn't arrive until a few years after it opened. Also, I really wanted to point out that it's located just off of Penistone Road. Now, I predict that somebody in the comments is going to tell me that it's pronounced differently, like how this surname is somehow pronounced Coburn. But just let it be Penistone, alright? Speaking of steel, all but one side of this ground was originally bordered by a steelworks. All that pollution must have been bad for the dogs, but not as bad as what's currently situated to the north of the ground. Actually, I think that Cadbury factory makes mince rather than chocolate. Just a short drive down Penistone Road is Hillsborough Stadium. Unlike Bramall Lane, this has always been a football ground, rather than a cricket ground. However, Sheffield Wednesday, the club that calls this place home, started out as a cricket club around 200 years ago. Their unusual name is derived from the fact that they originally played their games on Wednesdays. I of course have to mention the event that this stadium is probably most well known for. The Hillsborough disaster in 1989 claimed 97 lives, including one victim who died just a few years ago as a result of the injuries that occurred back then. The subsequent Taylor report completely changed the way stadiums in the country were designed. Most notably, it recommended that clubs in the top tier should convert their stadiums to all-seaters. That wasn't the only disaster in this ground's history. The collapse of a retaining wall in 1914 injured dozens of spectators. No deaths occurred on that occasion though. Anyway, whilst it may have a dark history, it is a beautiful old school stadium. I love the big gabled roof of the south stand that is adorned with its own clock, which is as old as the ground itself. Ponds Forge. If you didn't think I could possibly impart any more steel knowledge, well, think again, I've still got some left. Remember to cut that bit, that was terrible. This place was built on the site of a former steelworks called Ponds Forge, and the architects of this building actually won the British Steel Award for its extensive use of steel throughout. Ponds Forge is a somewhat accurate description of what you'll find inside, minus the forge. I don't think you'll find many frogs in these highly chlorinated ponds. one of which is actually Europe's deepest diving pool, nearly 6 meters. In case you're wondering why there's a venue like this in Sheffield, it was built for the 1991 World Student Games. I'll just quickly mention Olympic Legacy Park, despite the fact that it can only accommodate a couple thousand spectators, as it was built on the site of Don Valley Stadium, a sizable athletic stadium that was originally built for the aforementioned 1991 World Student Games, or Universiade as they're also known. Next door is the brand new Canon Medical Arena. This exterior is comprised of a nice mix of timber, glass and aluminium. Aluminium? I guess that's a sign of the times. Interestingly, Canon Medical is more than just a naming rights sponsor. The arena also includes medical facilities. It's a place where you might go for an MRI. Canon Medical manufactures those machines. Those facilities are intended to be used by the general public, but I guess if there is a heavy collision during a basketball match, they can quickly go and get a CAT scan and see whether or not they have, diabetes or something. I'm not a doctor, alright? This was also the UK's first carbon neutral built arena, so with all those things considered, it's got to be one of the least controversial sports venues that's ever been built. And those were the Stadiums of Sheffield. Thanks for watching, have a good steal.